Welcome to the Real Estate Syndication Show. Whether you are a seasoned investor or building a new real estate business, this is the show for you. Whitney Sewell talks to top experts in the business. Our goal is to help you master real estate syndication. And now your host, Whitney Sewell.
This is your daily real estate syndication show. I'm your host, Whitney Sewell. Today our guest is Mike Vann. Thanks for being on the show, Mike.
Hey, Whitney. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm honored to have you on the show. I look forward to our conversation. Mike has been investing in real estate for almost 20 years throughout Arkansas and Missouri and has built a $6 million personal portfolio across multiple asset classes consisting of single-family, small multifamily, apartments, and commercial properties. He has completed many flips, rehabs, and even a heavy lift, 7,000 per door apartment complex renovation over the last several years. In 2017, he began apartment syndication and has since been involved in the purchase of over 825 units in Kansas, Oklahoma, and Dallas-Fort Worth. Mike, honored to have you on the show. Give the listeners a little more about who you are, where you're from, and what your focus is right now.
Right. Well, like I said, I appreciate you having me on the show. I have, as you mentioned, been a real estate investor for almost 20 years and started out like a lot of other people in the single family, small multifamily, things like that. And over time, just decided to scale up, get a little bit bigger multifamily, some smaller apartment complexes, so forth. And, being in corporate America and having a full-time job at the same time and trying to do this, corporate America has made me realize that I'm only as good as my last quarter. So, that was one of the whys behind real estate investing initially was to create security and wealth for the future, and also not have to rely so much on corporate America. But over time, the fact that I feel we are blessed to be a blessing, and I feel I've been very blessed over the years. And so more so than just the wealth creation that real estate investing can give you is the time freedom that I value, not only to have more time with my family, but also to give back. I mean, mission work is a big part of my life. Not only, and we're heavily involved in the community here, but also just started doing some international work. Went on a few trips last year, and so that's really one of the big reasons why I like real estate investing, and have kind of geared myself to hopefully retire myself from corporate America in the next 3 years.
Nice. And I appreciate you sharing that as well. A lot of people, it's a big push to, do this job well and to be able to have that time freedom, like you said, be able to do, have more time with the family and do the mission work. It's awesome. And, but, tell me a little about your syndication journey. What was,
Okay.
What was the deal that, you all did recently? I know, what your partner we've had on the show, we discussed the deal, but I'd like for us to, talk about that deal and, and maybe give us an update as well. But in case the listeners don't know, maybe, give them a little more background on that property.
Okay. Well, my partner Rodney Miller had been on the show prior, and I think we were just getting ready to close, or maybe had just closed on the deal at that time. This is a 100-unit C-class property in a market just east of Tulsa, Oklahoma, a place I never would have imagined me buying an apartment complex in Pryor, Oklahoma. Very small town, but the key factor that was one of the decision makers in us pursuing the deal was this is home to one of Google's server farms. They had come in 2011, I believe it was, and have since invested over $2 billion in this community, and have continued to expand their facilities, have purchased and built on to their existing facilities, purchased other facilities, built more, keep adding jobs. And the market there just aren't enough places to live. And so everything there is pretty much within 20 miles of there is a full. So there's not enough places to live. We saw, the fact that Google came in at the end of last year, even announced a several $100 million expansion on this facility specifically. And then later in the year, before they can even start this, an announced a further expansion. And so, there's going to be jobs coming into this community for years to come. And Google's not a standalone. I mean, even though we know Google's not going to go anywhere, there are other, I think there's 5 Fortune 500 companies in this Mid-American Industrial Park there. And so it's a diverse economy with a lot of jobs there, and plan to be coming in the near future over the next several years. And so that, combined with the fact that the demand for housing there is led us to go ahead and pull the trigger on the deal. And
I appreciate you mentioning just having a diversified job selection. Obviously we feel like Google's going to be around for a while, but still,
right.
I wouldn't feel comfortable if that was like pretty much the only main employer.
Right.
That there wasn't any other large employers as well.
Right.
But obviously that they're building on, that's a great sign. So tell me, why did the sellers sell the property?
It's interesting. It was actually Mitt Romney's son is who we bought the property from, and they are just kind of focusing more out in Utah area and in disposing of their assets outside of that area in general vicinity. And they'd sold some other properties in Wichita and some other areas here in the Midwest, and we're just kind of focusing closer to home.
Okay, so. And just so the listeners know, Rodney's show was show WS 199. In case you want to go back and hear, more about the property when they were in that process of closing. I can't remember the exact process if you all had closed yet or not, but you're close,
right?
I think. And so, Mike, let's talk about what's happened since close, and some things maybe that's happened that were unexpected, and what's happened since then. But so since close, what kind of a game plan or did you all put in place?
Well, the property was full, well, fairly full when we took it over. I guess 97%, something like that. But one of the things that we didn't really uncover was how many short-term renters were there. We did a release audit and all that, and we knew that there were a certain amount of short-term renters, but there ended up being a lot more than were actually shown clearly on some of the leases. And upon takeover, the day of takeover, when we did our unit walk, there were actually some people that I guess had moved out that hadn't been moved out on, were there on paper but not there physically. So we had a little bit lower physical occupancy when we came onto the property, which is not a big deal. We just put our team in place and went to work. And then over time, we came to find out that the local manager that they had there in place didn't have a lot of rules, and people just decided they were done with their lease and no notice and just moved out. And so I guess the thing I would learn from that is you can look at the lease files on paper and do your due diligence on that, but maybe ask better questions, more questions, to get a better, clearer picture of what the true tenant profile is like, and so just be able to anticipate it a little bit more. I mean, it hasn't really hurt us financially. I mean, like I said, we were able to turn right around and get those units re-rented, but because of the demand, we're already rented several units at our pro forma rents, which were quite a bit higher than the previous owner had in there. We basically got them up to market.
I was going to say, if there was that much demand, it may have been a blessing that those people moved out.
Right. Absolutely. Got some of the less desirable tenants out and moved out in.
So what kind of questions should we be asking so that doesn't happen to us?
Maybe tenant concentrations, with a lot of the construction that was going on there because of Google, a lot of the Google, 1099 workers or the Google folks that were coming in just on short-term contracts. Maybe ask, like I said, tenant concentration, their specific policies on notices, move out notices. Typically we have a 30-day notice. Well, there was no 30-day notice or it wasn't being enforced. It was actually in the lease, but wasn't being enforced. So definitely want to know your tenant profile, concentration of employers within your tenant profile, and be able to anticipate those types of problems. And not that you can really do anything about it because they're already there, but at least it lets you get a game plan around that when they do move out.
So was the seller self-managing, or was it a third-party management?
It was a third-party manager. Basically, they just found some guy in the local community and had him come in and run it like
however he thought he should.
Yeah, he was a guy, very stern guy. I mean, he was kind of a fair housing nightmare, really. So we obviously didn't keep him on, but yeah, it was a third-party management company. I don't think there was a lot of oversight. I mean, these folks were other side of the country. This is a very small asset for them, and they admittedly said it was kind of ignored somewhat. And they just kind of prettied it up a little bit before they disposed of it. But hey, it's going to turn out to be a great asset for us.
Good. So tell me what's happened since close, outside of, I know you've got rid of the old manager, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you've got a new manager now. And
Mm-hmm.
what was the game plan with this property? Is it a value add? Is it remodeling units, or just getting better tenants? What did you all have to
Really,
do to increase the
it was
value?
more. It was more. Sorry to interrupt you there, but it was more just going in. There were very few rehab units. Probably 90% of them had already had full to partial rehab, so there wasn't a lot of capex to be done. Some a little deferred maintenance on the exterior. Stripe and seal the parking lot. That's actually being done today. And new landscaping, rebranding the property, we're going to add or extend the laundry facilities, make it a lot larger. Put more grilling stations around the community, and start holding. We just held our first resident event the other night, a barbecue. Doing more of those to create more community there among the residents, and so we can get better tenants and keep them longer.
Great. So tell me how you hired another manager. Did you hire somebody personally that's working for you all, or did you hire a completely third-party management company?
Right. So we do have a third-party manager, Trinity Multifamily. They're a large outfit. They manage about 24,000 units in 15 states, I believe. They actually manage one of my other complexes in Arkansas, and they have an office out of Tulsa. And so their regional came in and actually, when they posted the job, one of the vendors they had known for 7 years was from Pryor, and she wanted to get back home. And so she was the first one to apply. And they hired her because they knew she'd be a home run, and she has been.
Great. So what are some things maybe she's implemented that the previous manager didn't, that's been really key to getting this property operating successfully?
Biggest one, I think, is a sense of community, and a sense that the tenants, residents, she cares for them. That was one thing I noticed at the event earlier this week, is a lot of the residents, they come up and give her hugs, and she treats them like family. And that's one of the core beliefs we have is this is a business, but I mean, these are people, and just because they're maybe not in the same demographic as you are, then that doesn't mean they deserve any less. A clean, safe, affordable place to live, and we can treat them like we would treat our own family.
Great. And what's the hold period for this property?
Planned hold period is 5 years.
Okay. And so what, is it I guess, tell me a little more about how you all plan to increase rents, or, raising the NOI. What's the biggest way you all are doing that?
Right. So the expansion of the laundry room is one of the ways. So there are vending machines on property now that there were no contracts. They don't own them. They just let some outside guy come in and put his vending machines there, and he runs them. He gets all the money. and they do own all the laundry equipment, but a lot of it, well, there were 4 units down when I was there earlier this week. So we're going to take out the existing shop, double the size of the laundry facility, and purchase our own vending machines. So not only will it be a nice, large, newer place for the residents to come in and do their laundry, they'll actually have a place they can sit down, watch TV, eat a snack, have a folding table there to fold their laundry. It'll be a nice value add amenity, but at the same time, by getting working machines, first of all, but also adding an additional 4 sets of washers and dryers, we're going to create another, probably $500 a month minimum in other income. And you translate that at an 8% cap rate, roughly a $75,000 addition or increase to our property value.
Nice. So what's the plan, going forward? Are you looking for more properties similar to this? Are you all staying with Class C, or what's your, desire as far as moving forward, or maybe even, the type of your buying criteria going forward?
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. The B and C is kind of our sweet spot. Don't really have a preference for one over the other. Just kind of depends on what deals come along and if they pencil out. But B and C is our primary focus. My partner Carl Silvercrop is in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Rodney Miller is in the Oklahoma City area. I'm here in Springfield, Missouri. So we have a wide swath of area that we can get to within a short drive. So a lot of ground to cover. Looking for deals primarily in those areas, and then also deals in some of the markets that are direct flights. But there's been enough deal flow in this area that we can drive to that we haven't really had to reach out or get on a plane yet, except for Indy. We are pursuing a couple deals in Indianapolis. Got best and final the other day on a $20 million deal, and we didn't get it, so it's disappointing, but it's okay. It's a good market.
So can you elaborate on why you weren't chosen?
Well,
or do you know?
We were. I know. We were about $1 million over asking, and we got outbid by $800,000.
Wow.
And that it was primarily because we did have a local partner on the ground there, so we were represented in the market, and the end purchaser was also a local group. They were also someone that was vertically integrated, so they had their own construction company, and were able to pay a little bit more because of the cost savings they were going to have from having in-house construction, and they had also lost out on the deal the previous time it was on the market, and so I think it was a little bit personal for them.
Wow.
Yeah, they put down $2 million earnest money. Yeah.
$2 million of earnest money.
$250 hard day one.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. Well, they wanted it, didn't they?
They did want it. And so, I can't, we stuck to our fundamentals. We did what was right for us and our investors by the bid that we put in, and you can't get emotional about it. You can't just go chasing the deal just so you can get it. You got to stick to your fundamentals and make sure it's going to work once you do get it. So.
Sure. So Mike, you've been in real estate for a long time. You've been in different asset classes, and you've built a portfolio before you even got in syndication. You were successful in real estate. What's been the hardest part, though, of specifically the syndication experience for you or journey so far?
Learning to be flexible. That's one thing that when you're investing in your own portfolio, you control everything. You're not dealing with partners. You're not dealing with investors. You're not dealing with, you're dealing with your guy at the local community bank for the most part. And so being flexible is one of the biggest things I can say will lead to success, is being able to navigate those different channels when they pop up, and managing different personalities. Also being persistent. I mean, you have to look at a lot of deals, look at a lot of deals before you find one that will actually work. And then once you find one that actually works, getting it across the finish line to win the deal, and then beyond that, getting it closed. I mean, it can be a long, arduous process with a lot of hoops to jump through, and so you just got to be persistent, be flexible, don't take things personal, and just keep after it.
So I was thinking about you all working as a team. There's three guys that are making this happen. And, tell me, how do you all communicate, or, and how do you all like stay on top of tasks? Do you use some kind of, special CRM or task management software? How do you all do that?
Well, currently we just use a shared Dropbox file, and we're looking at Slack as well. That's a little bit more of a learning curve with Slack, so we may move there eventually, but right now we're doing just a shared Dropbox folder. We keep everything in there, so we always have access to it. We talk every day, multiple times a day, and when we're in a deal, we have specific areas that we will assign, like on this deal we're doing over in Oklahoma, I'm more in charge of the operations. Rodney was in charge of the legal team. Carl was in charge of investor relations. And so we just kind of divide and conquer.
Nice. I like that. Yeah. And then you all can be focused and know exactly what's expected of you. It's important.
Right.
So what's your best advice for taking care of investors?
Be transparent, under promise, over deliver, and always do what you say you're going to do. I think if you do those things, then you will be able to have successful deals, be able to have happy investors, and be able to sustain yourself in the business.
And what's the number one thing that's contributed to your success?
Prayer. Yeah.
Love it.
Well, prayer, persistence, and flexibility, kind of like I mentioned earlier. I mean, you just got to roll with the punches sometimes and stay after it, because it can really beat you down sometimes. That, and also balance, making sure that you don't forget the reason you're doing what you're doing, and focus on the people that your family.
It's easy to do. Get caught up in all this work we got to get done, right?
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
Yeah. Mike, I appreciate you sharing that. But before we run out of time, tell the listeners how you like to give back.
Mission work. That's my number one thing. Besides the freedom to spend more time with family, the freedom to have time to do more mission work is my big focus on freeing myself from corporate America through the passive income that real estate offers. And do that. We're heavily involved with the community here locally. I do storm relief here within the U.S., things like that. And then we actually did our first couple of international mission trips last year, and one to Ecuador and then one to Brazil. Both were, and we took our kids. Both phenomenal experiences, not only for us but for the kids. And I'm sure they'll appreciate it more later in life, looking back, than they do now. But they had a great time. They were great sports, and it was a phenomenal experience for the whole family.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mike, for being on the show. Tell the listeners how they can learn more about you and get in touch with you.
Well, you can learn more about our company at tridentmultifamily.com, tridentmultifamily.com, or my email is info@tridentmultifamily.com. Great.
Mike, thank you so much. Appreciate your time and sharing your experience in this deal, what you learned so far after closing. That's a lot of times there's things we don't expect that happens, right? And you know, and you have to roll with it, right? And hopefully you've prepared for it, but there's usually things that you can't prepare for as well at times. But anyway, appreciate your time. Appreciate the listeners being with us today and every day. I hope you'll go to LifeBridge Capital and connect with me as well, and go to the Facebook group, The Real Estate Syndication Show, and we will talk to you tomorrow.
Thanks, Whitney.
Thank you for listening to the Real Estate Syndication Show, brought to you by LifeBridge Capital. LifeBridge Capital works with investors nationwide to invest in real estate, while also donating 50% of its profits to assist parents who are committing to adoption. LifeBridge Capital, making a difference, one investor and one child at a time. Connect online at www.lifebridgecapital.com for free material and videos to further your success.